everyone. Welcome. Hi there. It's Michelle McLean here, your Health Coach Skills Mentor. And today I'm back with another Health Coach Skills tutorial. And today we're talking all about how to educate and inform your clients in a coach-like way. So this is a really confusing topic I find with a lot of new health coaches. So it can be confusing because you, may have gone through your health coach training program. You received all these materials and information to share with your clients. And then you also learn that coaching is client-led, that the client has all the answers, and so it becomes confusing. How much, or do I share any information at all? Am I able to educate, or is it all about just allowing the client to lead and guide everything? So I personally experienced this myself 9 years ago when I started my health coaching practice, and I felt not very confident in my coaching skills. And so what I tended to do was just provide a ton of information, overwhelm my clients, just kind of give them handouts and resources and all of this material. Again, because I didn't really feel confident in my coaching skills. I really wasn't sure, what the coaching process was all about and how it was meant to be structured. So I was kind of people pleasing in a way, right? That's essentially what I was doing. I was trying to provide value to my clients by just giving them all of this material, all of this information that hopefully would help them start to make some behavioral changes. So that if that sounds like you, if that's kind of where you're feeling, that maybe you're confused or you're not sure how much information or to give it at all, I think this is a very common place for new coaches to be. So today I've got a technique that comes from motivational interviewing that I wanted to share with you that really helps us show up in a coach-like way when we're providing information and when we're sharing educational materials. So I've made some notes here. So I'm going to share this technique with you, and then I'm going to provide you with an example. So I'm going to share what it exactly would sound like to share information in this way. But a couple of things before we get to that I just wanted to cover. Is that we know from the research, there's been research done in this area that shows that just providing information and educating to clients only nets about a 30% behavioral change in terms of outcomes. However, with coaching, if you're an effective coach and you're coaching well, that process can actually provide a 95% behavioral change in terms of outcomes. So the percentages of outcomes of successful behavioral changes made, absolutely come from a really effective coaching process. So that's number one. Not, totally saying that education is bad. There's a little bit of both, but coaching can be really, really powerful and effective for behavioral change. So, the bottom line when it comes to us as coaches and educators or, sharing information, absolutely. We sort of have this dual role. We can provide information, we can educate, and yes, of course, we want to be the coach as well. So essentially we're wearing those two hats, when we get into a coaching session with our client. For the majority of the time, we're probably doing coaching, and for a little bit of time, we can actually be educating as well. Also, I just want to say here that if you have another license or training, you've done some other, training, you're in another role that you're going to pair up with your coaching practice, you can absolutely wear, more than two hats. So maybe you're a registered dietitian and you're a coach. So you would be, using three hats: education, coaching, and nutrition. Maybe you're a nurse practitioner. So, again, bringing those skills to your coaching practice plus educating and coaching as well. So lots of different ways that we can wear many hats in coaching. Doesn't mean that we have to 100% do coaching all of the time, but in health coaching particularly, under the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, the National Board says that, kind of a percentage-wise, 25% of the time we can be doing educating and informing, and about, of course, the remainder of the time we're doing our coaching. So just wanted to give you those kind of foundational pieces just so that you had those to go from. So I think it's also important that if we are wearing different hats, and this is sort of a coach approach as well, when we are wearing different hats, we want to let our clients know, so, I'm going into my education role. So, let me just switch hats here and put on my teaching hat, and so I am going to teach a little bit here. And then make sure that when you switch back, you say, okay, let's switch back to coaching mode now. So the reason why this is so important is because we really want to set it up so that the client knows, not to always expect teaching from us, right? So we want to make sure that the client is able to distinguish, is she coaching right now? Is she teaching right now? What is she doing? So we just want to be really clear and to not have the client have this expectation that every time it's just going to be information, that there is a coaching component to it as well. So we just want to let them know when we're switching hats. So I think that's a good practice as well. So the other thing that I want to say is when we are sharing information as a coach, we're coming from the place of, I have information to share that might be beneficial for you. So, do I have permission to share that with you versus being the expert? We all know what the expert mode looks like when we go to the doctor, when we go to a therapist, when we go to a consultant or a mentor, they're sharing expertise. And there's a great place for that. We all need that at various points. But coaching is not coming from the expert place, right? It's the client's the expert on their life. And, I'm going to provide some information that might be helpful for them to make behavioral change. So that's kind of the place that coaching comes from, that educating in coaching comes from. So let's see here. What else did I note down before we actually get into the technique? So yeah, I think we'll just do that now. So what I want to do is share a little bit of a framework. It comes from motivational interviewing, as I mentioned before, and it really provides a great framework for how we as coaches can share information in a very respectful and coach-like way with our clients. So I want to go through this with you. There's sort of 3 steps to it. There's a couple of things that we're going to do before. And so if you want to take some notes, that would be great, just so that you have this. So the first thing we always want to do when we're going to educate or share information with our clients is to ask for permission first. And I sort of just touched on this. And why that's so important is that really, really we want our clients to know that, it's up to them. We really want to make them be in the driver's seat, or have them be in the driver's seat as always. And so if we ask, may I share this? Do I have your permission to share this? And they say yes, then obviously they're going to be, a little bit more interested. They might be more willing and open to the information if we've asked and they've said yes. If we just start dumping all this information and education on them, they might not be as open to it. They might feel a little overwhelmed or just not open to the information. So if we ask for permission, do I have your permission to share this information? Would you like me to share that? Whatever works for you is just a nice way to begin this conversation. So we ask for permission, and then we use this technique, like I said, from motivational interviewing, which is EPE, and that stands for elicit, provide, and elicit. So this first elicit is we really want to elicit from the client, what do they already know about the topic, about whatever it is that they want to learn more about. And we elicit that because, we don't want to repeat everything that they already know. We don't want to overwhelm them with too much more. And as well, it taps into the client's own expertise and their own knowledge and their own strengths. What do you already know about, what diet works best for diabetics? What do you already know about managing stress? What do you already know about what exercise works best for you? So always tapping into the client's own wisdom, their knowledge, finding out what they know first. So that's what that first elicit is all about. what the client already knows. What prior knowledge have they attained? What research have they done? What maybe have they tried in the past? That would be eliciting, what they already know. So it's really, really important to start there. What does the client already know? And that really honors them, like I was saying, in a coach-like way that, I don't want to assume that you know nothing about this, right? So let me find out, let's talk about what you do know, and then maybe I can help fill in some gaps. So then we get to the P, so this is the second step, which is actually providing the information. So the P is provide. The coach then provides information that the client is looking for. So like I just said, it is about filling in those gaps. We don't want to just go on and on and on and spend the entire coaching session, sharing all of our knowledge. We want to share it in brief little, small bite-sized chunks that the client can really digest. We want to provide just a brief, bit of information, and then we come back to the client. So we provide that information, we fill in the gaps of what they don't know, and we're really specific and clear and, like I said, bite-sized chunks of what we want to share. We don't want to overwhelm the client with too much. So that's the second step. We're providing the actual information. And then the third step, the other E, is we elicit again. So this is the piece that, really does make this coach-like, because we put it back on the client. So we share the information, and then we might say something like, how does that land with you? How does that resonate? Does that make sense? What did you learn from that? So we're putting it back on the client to just really acknowledge and elicit from them the learning, the understanding, and what they gained from hearing that information. So we're eliciting from the client their interpretation of what we shared, their understanding, and their response, to whatever that information was that we shared. So this really, puts it back, the client's in the driver's seat at the end to make the decision about what they want to do with that information. So what did you learn? What did you notice in what I shared? What was new information to you? And, now that you have this information, what would you like to do with it, if anything? Because the other point that we really want to make sure of and be clear on as the coach is that this is just information sharing. This is not advice. This is not counseling. This is not telling the client what to do or giving a recommendation. You are absolutely simply just sharing information, and they get to decide what they do with it. So if it resonates, great. If they want to do something with it, if they want to create an action step, wonderful. If they decide that that's not the right information, or they'd like to do more research, they'd like to find other options, whatever the case may be, perfectly fine. We have no connection to the outcome, to if the client uses this information or not. We are absolutely just providing it for informational purposes only. So in that final step, that second eliciting, some questions, here that you could use would be things like, what did you hear me say? What was helpful in this? Anything that you'd like to do with this information? What do you want to do with it? And maybe you don't want to do anything with it. So just, get a conversation going about, again, that interpretation, their response to the information, and their understanding of it. So just checking my notes here, I think I've covered those points. Yeah, so that final point of we're really allowing the client to stay in the driver's seat here. They're in the seat of power. Again, we're not telling or recommending, we're simply just sharing that information. And they are the experts in their lives, so they're going to be the ones to figure out what to do with this information. So this is, what makes coaching a little bit different from some other professions out there, where there is a lot of recommending, prescribing, telling, suggesting, advising. We're different in that we really just share it and see what the client wants to do with it, is the bottom line. So what I'd love to do now is share a little, an example of this, so you can actually hear it sort of play out. What would those questions sound like? What would the back and forth between the coach and the client look like? Before I get into that, though, I did want to also mention that, as health coaches, we have a fairly specific scope of practice. There are absolutely things that we are able to do within our scope as health coaches, and things that we are not meant to do. So whatever health coach training program you did, you really want to be clear on what that scope of practice is, because we never want to be educating outside of our scope of practice. So like I mentioned in the beginning, if you're wearing a few different hats in your coaching practice, you're a functional medicine practitioner and a coach, absolutely you can educate about functional medicine because you've learned that. That's part of your training. If you're a nurse and a coach, obviously you can draw on your skills and your education and your learning as a nurse to bring into your coaching practice. But if you are specifically a health coach without other background or training, you want to be really clear that you are staying in your scope of practice. So as a health coach, we are not meant to be educating on supplements. That is not within our scope of practice. We are not registered dietitians, so we are not educating on therapeutic diets. We're of course not physicians, so we are not diagnosing and treating and educating on, illnesses or diseases, things like that. So we're, health coaches, lifestyle is our realm, and so those would be the areas that we could educate on. So wanted to give you this example of what it sounds like, this EPE, provide elicit as a way to share information with your client. I wanted to give you an example of what that might sound like. So I've written the conversation down here, so I'll just be looking down at my notes, but I think important for you to hear what it might sound like in an actual health coaching example. So the coach, you have a client, maybe they've expressed that they're dealing with stress and they're trying to look for some ways to manage that stress, to feel more relaxed and calm. And you're just going to start to brainstorm maybe some ideas here with the client. So the coach might just do a simple reflection back, a summary of what you're going to go through here. So the coach may say something like, I understand that you're concerned about your stress levels and that you're interested in finding some ways to begin balancing your stress and find some more relaxation. Is that correct? Just want to verify that that's the path we're on here. So the client may say, yes, I've been reading about meditation actually, and I'm thinking that might be a good thing to try. So the coach could come back with, yes, meditation has been known to be a really effective way to manage stress. Tell me what you currently know about meditation, right? So that's where the eliciting comes. Tell me what you've researched. Tell me what you've read. Tell me what you already know. So the client might come back with, well, I read that it helps bring more calm. It's a great way to deal with those stressful thoughts in your head, but I'm a little bit worried that it might be hard and I might not be able to do it. Do you have any tips on how I might get started? So there the client has come and just actually, asked the coach for some tips and suggestions. So the coach could come back with, great, so it sounds like you have learned that meditation can be calming and help with relaxation, so we're reflecting back what we've heard. If it's okay with you, would it be helpful if I shared some more benefits with you and what I've found works well for some other people? Client comes back, yes, that would be great. So you've just asked for permission to share this information. So the coach might share a little bit of the research of the studies that they're familiar with. Studies have shown that there are many physical, mental health benefits of meditation, including things like decreased pain, better immune function, less anxiety and depression, and also a heightened sense of well-being and greater happiness. Also emotional self-control can also be a benefit of meditation. So meditation can be really beneficial. So you've just shared, you provided some information to the client. So then the client says, wow, those are a lot of great benefits from meditation. All of that from just, sitting and trying not to think, right? So just a comment about meditation. And then the coach could come back with, yes, it's been shown over time with consistency that lots of these benefits are absolutely real. Would you be interested in learning a little bit about how you could get started? So again, you're asking for permission to share some ideas. Yes, please, says the client. So then the coach comes back with, well, some of my other clients have had great success with an app called Headspace. So you're sharing a resource here. There's a free 10-day beginner's course that teaches you the essentials of meditation in just a few minutes a day. You can download the app on your phone, and each day you just pick a time and you listen to the instructions for that day. The coach might also add in here, I also have some book recommendations. So if you prefer to read a book and get the background and follow along that way with a meditation technique, that's also an option. And then we would just put it back to the client. Do either of those appeal to you? So we're allowing the client to come up with their own decision. So the client may say, yes, actually the app sounds like it might be a really nice way to get started. I like the idea of listening to someone guiding me through it, and it might be a quick and easy way to get started. The coach says, great. So it sounds like you're interested in exploring the Headspace app and that beginner 10-day course. Is that right? And maybe you could add in there, what else about this appeals to you? So maybe the client comes back with, yeah, I think that sounds like a great place to start. Really interested in, something that's just short that I can give it a try and see the benefits in a short period of time. So the coach could come back with, great, so it sounds like you're interested in moving forward in this direction. What action steps would you like to start with? What action steps could you commit to this week around this? So the client might come back with, well, I guess first I have to download the app. That would be the first step, and I could do that tomorrow. And then maybe they say, then I need to look at my calendar and decide on a start date. And, as I think about it, maybe next Monday sounds like a great date. So then we're going to get into the action plan, the accountability, and everything else around that. But I really wanted to hone in today on this, how do we provide the information? How do we educate? How do we share a resource in a coach-like way? And this elicit, provide, elicit is a great little way to remember, how to show up coach-like. So elicit, you're going to first try to understand what the client already knows. Second, you're going to provide that short bit of information. Thirdly, you're going to invite the client to, decide what they want to do with that information. Was it helpful? Did it help their understanding? Did it fill in some of the gaps for them? And then what are they going to do with that information? So I hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions at all about how we show up in this coach-like way, how do we provide information to our clients, I'd be happy to answer them. The bottom line here is, yes, we do wear two hats. We can do some educating and sharing of information. We just do it in a coach-like way. We don't show up as the expert, and we don't overwhelm our clients. These are not recommendations suggesting or telling our clients what to do. We're allowing them to decide, what information they currently have, what more information do they need, and once they get that information, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to put it into an action plan and move forward with it? What will they do with it? So the client's always in the driver's seat. That's how we keep it client-led, right? So we can educate, we can teach, we can share information, and we can also be, client-led at the same time. I always say, and this is a great one to remember, the client owns the content. Whatever they decide they want to talk about or work on, work towards, is all from the client, and the coach owns the process and the structure. So we're the guide here, guiding through how we're going to provide information to our client and help them become more informed. So any questions, post them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you next time for our next health coaching skills tutorial. Bye for now, everyone.